What's up everyone? Baku here! So as you guys know, PvP is just around the corner. We expect it to come around very soon, maybe in the few months or so. So I figure that we should talk about what is the best, or will be best weapons to use in PvP, and speculate what weapon or class will most likely dominate, and see if you should really build or start a dedicated character for PvP. Also, there's not much content on the game right now, and the Toram community seems dry nowadays, so we'll go with this. Not because I can't think of anything to put on my channel. Yes!
Definitely not.
Anyways, before we start, I should probably note that we don't know very much about PvP. Like how it's really gonna work. Like the damage scaling. Because not gonna lie, the damage that players can deal nowadays is insane. And will damage reductions gonna affect those? Like resistances? And how about proration? Will it apply? Or how about flea stats? Etc. We'll just base on what we see on the live stream and some info provided by Toram content creators. So, like I said, we don't know very much yet. But what we can see from the dev stream is the damage that dealt and received is somewhat lower, mostly 100, 2000s, 3 to 4 numbers only. We can see this because Pillow used Zante Satetsu, which deals 15,000 damage, which should be enough to finish Suzuki P, which only has 20,000 HP, or at least low enough to finish him with just a few hits. I can say this because in Suzuki's POV, the damage received from Zante is only 5,000. Well, maybe it didn't crit, but still, the basic attacks of Pillow, which is mostly 700 to 800, is also reduced. So yeah, we don't know very much about the damage scaling in PvP. We are not sure if the damage will be lowered to balance out with the HP, or the devs just intentionally use crappy build to fully showcase PvP for prolonged time. Anyways, I digress. We can also see that both of them have almost the same amount of HP. And again, we don't know if HP will be multiplied or the devs just set it to be equal for the sake of the stream. Because if both players will have the same HP, it's unfair, don't you think? And it hinders building vitality stat if there was a fixed HP. So I don't think they will do that. What I do hope though is that HP will be multiplied by a certain amount for it to be fair. Or just have a PvP base HP, like a base amount of HP that is then added to the HP of the player. In this case, it'll be somewhat fair on both players. And lastly, we can also see that interrupts or ailments also works, which is very good, and can open up new builds and playstyles. So, with those out of the way, let's proceed. In PvPs especially, power alone isn't enough. For most cases at least. It alone can't bring you far. DPS sing in PvP is greatly different from bosses, which you can easily clutch with 1 HP, cause there is an attack pattern that you can memorize, very dissimilar to PvP where getting hit is almost inevitable. Especially glass cannon builds. Very high damage output but lasts very short. And also without Godspeed wield, most glass cannon builds are ineffective. They will be very slow and fragile at the same time. So, I think the optimal build for PvP is a well-balanced build. A build with good offense whilst having a good sustain and defense. I said well-balanced because, if you put too much offensive stats, you'll have a very small HP, and put too much on defense or HP, and you'll have terrible damage. You see those merc stat distribution, with strength dex then a portion of vit stats? I think those will be very good. A great example of this are the paladin builds with a good amount of HP, or a high damage bruiser build. I kinda feel like they will dominate PvP, because along with their high HP, they have access to shield, which is a perfect defensive weapon. They can guard to reduce damage taken, which can also now a MPR. P-def that negate damage and heal, and not to mention shield cannon which can stun. And don't get me started with HP sustain that they have. Buster with Bloodsucker in Paladin is cracked. Not to mention that they have access to pretty much all interrupt or CC with their kit. And at the same degree, I also think Knuckles will also definitely dominate PvP. Semi-tank Knuckles to be specific though. They have a pretty good and very fast DPS with Asura. This skill is also a good defensive skill. Not only it has iframe upon cast, it also reduces a percentage of the damage taken in exchange for 100 MP. And with this active, Knuckles have high ailment resistance. Of course, this skill has a con, as while this is active, you won't have any AMPR. And getting hit means minus 100 MP. So in PvP your MP will drain fast. But then again, getting hit also counts as Asura stacks.
Bitch, you guessed it!
Ahem. Anyways, once you recasted it, the AMPR will be insane. Sustaining HP is also not a problem, as they have a lot of ways in doing that, with dancer skills, with breath work, P-def, and more. And I don't think I need to tell you how good Knuckles are at interrupts, right? So again, to recap. From what we've discussed, an optimal build for PvP should have 1. Of course a good damage for offense, then paired with a good defense. Any form of negating or reducing damage is very helpful. And needless to say, a good defense is less effective, and incapable of keeping you alive for long if your HP is abysmal. So lastly, a PvP opted build should have a good amount of HP, and a good sustain so the HP won't go down quickly. So in short, bruiser builds will most likely take the crown. Now, how about other weapons? How well will they do? Let's quickly go through all of them. First, I think Staff and MD will be kinda mediocre, not because they're weak, but because how slow their DPS is. Majority of their skills requires casting, which can easily be interrupted. In my humble opinion, I think THS will still be very viable. They hit hard and can also do what most OHS paladins do. They can use Merc stat distribution and be still hitting hard and have a little survivability at the same time. Even though considered as one of the best DPS weapon, I don't think it'll be the same case for bows in PvP. Since CF becomes unviable considering you're getting hit often, and SAT won't hit 90% of the time. But still, I don't think they're hopeless. Since bow's alternative DPS playstyle, retro spam will still be a viable option. In addition to its DPS, retrograde can also act as P-def, but without the heal, which is a little helpful I guess. The same reason also applied to Baugans, though CF and SAT might be ineffective. Baugans have Twin Storm and Vanquisher, which is powerful to say the least. Fast DPS, high AMPR and high damage. Though we can't deny that both bow and Baugans are very squishy, and when it comes to sustain and defense, they might have a little problem. I don't have much knowledge about halberds, but I think they will be the type that have a very strong heavy-hitting offense, but will lack in defense. Because it's just the way how halberd skill tree is designed. Just pure brute offense. Dual swords might also be a good duelist. They have a very high-speed DPS even without Godspeed wield. DS also have a lot of defensive skills on their kit like Cross Parry, Phantom, and Storm Reaper iframe. Pair it with their fast DPS and they can also be a good bruiser. Just like DS, Katanas are also a good duelist. And I'm not saying that because I'm a Katana main. Well, maybe, but hear me out. Katanas are very good DPS. They have fast DPS, low MP cost skills, and they also have a lot of defensives and iframes as they specializes in parrying enemy attacks. Not to mention this defensive skill, which is a little broken. When getting hit while using this, a counter attack will be carried out, and some HP will be restored, and at level 10, it recovers an amount of HP equals to 100% of damage taken. My problem is their HP sustain. Yes, they may have these parries, but they can only hold them out for short. So yeah, I think they'll still be viable. It's just that they lack HP sustain. So, that sums up today's video. I hope you've enjoyed it and helped you even a little bit. Also, thank you guys for all your support. I really appreciate it. And sorry for the late upload. Haven't grinding the game lately since there's really not much anything to do. Anyways, thanks for watching. And if you've enjoyed the video, subscribe.